What does the process actually look like when you have a basic problem at a customer's office? Well, I'm going to be taking you through each step along the way that you can follow step by step to have the best possible outcome. My name is Harrison Barron from growth-generators.com. We help MSPs with sales training and marketing. Before I get into it, as always, one, there is a masterclass down below. It is going to have a significant impact on your business to help it grow year after year after year. I've gotten incredible feedback from it. I highly recommend you checking it out. Number two is come hang out with us in the Discord. It is a fantastic community of people. I was just in there. We're having a grand old time. Good bunch of people, but it is genuinely there. I do hang out in there. I do some live Q&As of people that want to help each other in the MSP world, from cybersecurity to basic standards of an MSP, all the way as deep as you want to get in the space. And it's not just for beginners. It is for everybody who's just starting out all the way into the 6 and 7 figure. And heck, there's probably some 8-figure people in there as well. So let's get into the meat and potatoes of this. What does it look like when you have a problem at a customer's office? Now, this is separate from cybersecurity. If you're getting involved in cybersecurity, you have your own set of things. This is for a basic MSP who is responding to, let's say, something super easy. Server goes out. You don't know what the actual problem is. You just got a notification or something that happened. An incident had to occur. For you to be notified, informed about it, whatever it might actually be, you really have to fully understand. And through that, you have to be able to say, hey, there's a report, somebody called in, something had to have happened to let you know, hey, this is actually going on in the business. It's just making this thing ring or a message pop up on the computer saying, hey, something is going on there. After you do that, you're going to do your assessment, because just like I was in the fire service, you have to figure out what's actually going on. Somebody calls, says, hey, there's a problem. Okay, well, let me figure out how to actually respond to this problem. So it's an initial assessment, just an assessing what is going on, because it could be something as simple as somebody knocked out the power. Okay. No big deal. It could also be something much, much worse. And it could be something, I've had it happen where a car hits a pole outside, drops the power for the whole building. And all of a sudden you're getting notifications saying all of these things are currently happening, these problems for a business that you as the MSP need to figure out or how to actually address it. So after you do your initial assessment, usually remote first, you're going to start communication with the appropriate parties. That could be with the system administrators, that could be with their internal staff, that could be with the people that are cutting your paychecks, whatever it might be. You have to build that communication with them, just letting them know, hey, and it could be as simple as picking up the phone and saying, hey, we see what's going on. We tried to ping the server, can't get a hold of the server. What's going on there? And start that level of communication, because think about it. During this process, the customer is kind of freaking out because something has happened. Now, to the extreme of they lost power because there's a pole that got hit outside, totally different story. They'll probably figure that one out when the lights aren't on. But what if the server is out? Well, it could be a multitude of different things. And you won't know, you might start to kind of get an idea during that initial assessment, but start that communication of just saying, hey, we know something's going on. We are aware of it. We're going to start to figure it out. Next is going to be containment. Whether that is containing and isolating that problem, that could be just saying, hey, we know that the server closet got knocked out of power. That could be all the way up to a potential threat. Now, once again, this is a basics video, and it could be something where, hey, I spilled a bottle of water on my tower and now it's gone. Well, let's contain that flood. Containment can mean so many different things, but you have to just go into it with an open mind and start to look around what's actually going on and using your experience to say, okay, this makes logical sense as to why we're having an issue. Next is going to be documenting, right? You're going to start to figure out that issue during that containment phase and start to work through it, but you have to document it, right? It's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. You want to make sure you document it on your end. God forbid something happens. You also want to make sure it's documented and the customer can see it, because more often than not, your PSA and your RMM tools are going to should be connected. And I say tools because they can be one, they can be two. They could be even more than that. Should be connected to some level of communication with that customer. And the nice part is when you start documenting, the customer can then probably see What's actually going on? What are you finding in the trenches? And I'm not necessarily worried about the business owner, but what if you have a technician out there? Well, the technician's not going to sit there on the phone with you while they're trying to fix something. They're just going to be updating the ticket, hopefully fairly regularly, to let everyone know what's going on in that situation. Because once again, it could be a very, very basic thing. Power got knocked out. No big deal when it comes to that kind of thing. Next is going to be escalation. You might realize, hey, this is a bad problem. This is way worse than we originally thought it was. It could be a potential attack. It could be something where, hey, you had a complete switch fry out. I mean, the list could really go on and on and on. Maybe it's a malicious employee that this is happening and you didn't even realize in the containment phase because that employee is now on a different computer or still in the office. Now you have to start to say, okay, well, do I need to escalate this to somebody more experienced, or is this something that I can take care of myself? After all of that, and you get it to the appropriate people, you document it, you begin that communication, you're talking to the customer, all of these good things are happening. You're going through the initial remediation measures. Now, I put this kind of at the end, but if it's a super, super basic thing, you could start that remediation way earlier. You don't even have to worry about the escalation part of it, but you might need to document certain things depending on what is currently happening in the environment. You are the expert. I let you make the decision on here. And you could take this list and modify it however you want. But you want to start going through and remediating that problem, removing whatever that issue is. And if it's that pole outside and you're escalating it to your local power company, you're going to be sitting there and just crossing your arms and waiting. It's just how the process goes. Don't worry about it. You've escalated it to the appropriate people. You might not be the end-all be-all for the escalation. Don't worry about it. It's okay. We're all human, and things happen out in the world. Could be a storm. There's a million things that could go on there. After you remediate everything, you want to start to think and document, look at your documentation, but how do we mitigate this again in the future? Obviously, if a car hits a pole out front, you're not going to say we should put concrete pillars around the pole. That might be a little too much. But for other things that can be avoided, or hey, an employee went into the server closet with no malicious intent, they started looking, they bumped into the power cord, anything like that. How do we mitigate that problem in the future? Is it as simple as getting a key that could lock that server closet so only the appropriate people get in there? Should already be locked, by the way. There's a ton of different ways to mitigate those problems. It could be putting in security protocols. It could be putting in standard operating procedures for both you or the client. But this is a 8 kind of step process that you can actually go through to begin to see success. And the more you mitigate it, especially learning from your past mistakes, the more successful you're going to be going forward. You're going to be more profitable. You're going to be able to do more. You're going to have a knowledge base with information that employees can use to help address problems again in the future. So hopefully this list helps. I'll do a quick little recap. You want to get notified about that incident, whether that is a report, a phone call, however it actually comes through your system telling you, hey, there is an incident currently happening. Next is going to be that initial assessment. However you decide to perform your initial assessment is totally up to you. Now, you've already been communicated with, but the client probably has no idea what's going on. So make sure there's a clear line of communication. For really bad things, you might want to talk to them a little more often. For things that really aren't a big deal, hey, Mary Sue's computer is giving her a hard time. You know, Mary Sue spilled some water on it or some Gatorade or Coke, whatever it might be. Okay, you still got to let the customer know. They might not care all that much about one computer. It's not the whole business. After that, it's containment. Hopefully there's no flood. If it's an electrical issue, you got to figure that one out, but contain that problem however you can do it. Next is going to be documentation, which could be swapped out for starting that remediation phase, but you want to start to document what's actually going on. What are you seeing? What is currently happening in that moment? And the better you can be on there, the better off you're going to be. If you're like, Harrison, there's no way I could ever document all of that kind of stuff, I promise you, I'm going to tell you right after you hit that like button. Thank you. So this little sucker right here, it's called a cell phone. I'm sure you probably have one. No surprise there. It's probably a smartphone. That is called a camera. You can point this sucker out and record videos. You don't have to be a professional selfie maker, but you can. The nice part about this camera is you can talk, you can take all your notes basically through the camera, put them in later. You can scan the whole environment. You might see things that you might have missed the first time when you were dealing with the issue. Documentation is huge. I cannot tell you how many times just this little camera alone has saved me. Pictures, videos, the whole nine. I would do walkthroughs of clients' offices, especially when you're telling somebody else to go in. Hey, it's 5 doors down on the right-hand side. It's this big blue door. You're going to do this, 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 this. You can show them previously or send them that video. Makes life a million times easier. After documentation, you've begun your documentation. You're going to do escalation if it's required. If it's not recorded, great, skip this step. If it is required, escalate it to the appropriate people. Is it somebody else on your team? Is it a third-party person, whether that's your local power company, your local water company? It does not matter, but you might have to escalate it and be aware that that is a thing. Next is going to be remediate the problem. That's it. You know, you have mold remediation for homes, which is where they go and they take out all the mold. You're going to remediate the problem, whatever it might actually be. You're going to go and actually fix that problem. And then last but not least, the most important step, in my opinion, is mitigate. You don't want the problem to happen again. I don't want the problem to happen again for you. Try to do whatever you can to mitigate it. Yes, there is a law of diminishing returns. You can only mitigate so much, and that's okay. Just try to mitigate it to the best of your abilities. Nobody's perfect. Things are always going to be happening. But if you can mitigate it, implement the right standard operating procedures, whatever it might be, and try to learn from it. You know, you're obviously going to mitigate it. But if it's something that you've seen or something that the team might want to know, do a debrief afterwards. It is super valuable. I was a fireman for 10 years. We debrief after every training, after every fire, after every car accident, you name it. We would sit back at the firehouse and go over what did we like, what did we not like, what could we have done better, where do we need to practice, where do we need to train on, because it's that important. And if we're doing it in the fire department, I know police are doing it, I know medical staff is doing it, I know the military is doing it. You might want to consider doing it yourself. It is worth the extra time that you will invest to make yourself a better business owner, a better person in the MSP world. Other than that, I love the heck out of you guys. I appreciate you guys, and I will see you guys. Wait, hold on. You didn't go check out the masterclass. Do that, please. Thank you so much. That was clever, right? Love you guys. I'll see you guys later.